There's a kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't threaten, and doesn't need to win. It stands still while others shake. It listens when others rage, and when it finally speaks, the room falls silent. That power is not arrogance, it's reason. It's the power Socrates mastered 2,000 years ago, to destroy falsehoods not with aggression, but with questions so sharp they made ignorance collapse by itself. We live in an age of opinions, noise, and performance. Everyone wants to be right, but no one wants to think. People fight to dominate, not to discover. They confuse volume with truth and emotion with intelligence. And yet, there's a quieter way to win. A way that doesn't rely on dominance or pride or anger, but on clarity. Because in every argument, the one who stays calm sees deeper. The one who asks questions controls the flow. And the one who understands silence never loses control. Socrates once said, "I cannot teach anyone anything. I can only make them think." That's the secret weapon, not to crush your opponent, but to make them reveal their own contradictions. In this video, we'll explore 5 Socratic tricks, timeless methods that let you win any argument calmly, without manipulation or aggression. You'll learn how to expose false confidence, disarm emotional attacks, and guide any conversation toward truth with the stillness of a Stoic and the precision of a philosopher. Now let's begin. The first trick: define before you defend. In most arguments, people fight about fog. They don't even agree on what they're discussing, yet they rage to prove themselves right. Words become weapons, not bridges, and meaning gets lost in pride. A man says, "That's unfair." Another says, "You're wrong." But when you ask, "What do you mean by unfair?" the illusion starts to crack. Because clarity kills confusion. Imagine someone accusing you, "You're selfish." The natural instinct is to defend yourself, to argue emotionally. But a Stoic mind steps back and asks, "What do you mean by selfish?" Suddenly, they must define it, and in doing so, they reveal whether their claim stands on truth or emotion. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone speaks badly of you, live so that no one believes him." In the same way, if someone argues blindly, live and speak so that truth exposes them. This trick disarms chaos by forcing precision. You don't fight emotion with emotion. You bring it into the light of logic. Every vague accusation hides confusion. Every heated claim hides insecurity. And when you calmly ask for definition, the mask slips not because you attacked it, but because you asked for clarity. Define before you defend. Because most arguments are shadows pretending to be substance. The second trick: ask for evidence, never opinions. People speak with confidence they haven't earned. They repeat what they've heard, not what they've verified. And in the storm of certainty, truth gets drowned. Socrates would simply ask, "How do you know that?" That's it. Not sarcastically, sincerely. Because the moment you ask for proof, the emotional wave collapses into silence. Someone claims, "This always happens." Ask, "Always? How do you know that?" Someone declares, "Everyone agrees." Ask, "Who is everyone?" You'll notice something. The argument weakens the moment it faces reality. Seneca said, "Most people prefer to believe what they find easiest to believe." That's why they defend assumptions instead of seeking facts. But when you ask for evidence, you're no longer debating belief, you're demanding reality. The Stoic doesn't attack opinions, he examines them. Because to test a belief is to honor truth. Try this in conversation. When emotion rises, don't push back, just ask gently. What evidence would convince you otherwise? If they can't answer, they were never after truth. And now, you know more about them than they know about you. The mind that needs no proof is already lost, but the one that seeks it conquers quietly. Third trick: turn the question back. Arguments feed on momentum. Every attack expects reaction, emotion, defense, or escalation. But the Stoic breaks the pattern. He doesn't react, he redirects. When someone says, "You think you're better than everyone," don't explain yourself. Ask, "Why do you think that?" When someone accuses, "You don't care about people," ask, "What makes you believe that?" By turning the question back, you shift the emotional weight onto the accuser. Now they must examine their assumptions, not you. It's the verbal equivalent of martial arts, using their force against them. You're not blocking the attack, you're letting it collapse under its own imbalance. Socrates used this method relentlessly. He would never argue directly. He would reflect the question back until his opponent exposed their own contradictions. And when they realized it, they grew silent, not because they lost, but because they finally thought. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." In argument, this means calm instead of rage, questions instead of accusations, precision instead of pride. When you mirror their question, you remind them of their own lack of clarity. And suddenly, you're not defending, you're leading. Remember, the calm mind always commands the conversation. The fourth trick, expose the emotional motive behind the logic. Every argument has two layers, the words and the wound. People rarely argue ideas, they argue feelings disguised as logic. Someone insists you're wrong, not because you are, but because being right gives them identity. Someone mocks your view, not because it's false, but because it threatens their comfort. When you sense emotion under logic, name it gently. Say, "I sense this issue means a lot to you, why?" Or, "It sounds like this topic frustrates you. What about it feels unfair?" You're not mocking, you're exposing the emotional anchor behind the argument. And the moment you do, the logic loses its disguise. Seneca said, "He who is angry is always wrong." Because anger blinds judgment and pride deafens truth. The Stoic doesn't humiliate the opponent, he liberates them from delusion. By addressing emotion with empathy, not ego, he wins without fighting. There's power in understanding. When others shout from pain, your calm becomes a mirror, and they see themselves clearly, maybe for the first time. You can't argue someone out of insecurity, but you can let them hear it echo in their own words. That's not manipulation, that's wisdom. Because truth, when revealed with kindness, hits harder than truth forced with pride. The fifth trick, control the frame, not the fight. Every conversation has an invisible battlefield, not of words, but of framing. Who defines the topic? Who sets the tone? Who decides what winning means? Most people lose before they even speak because they accept the opponent's frame. They argue inside someone else's narrative. If someone says, "Why are you so defensive?" and you reply, "I'm not defensive," you've already lost. You accepted their frame. Now your truth dances to their rhythm. But the Stoic never reacts inside another's frame. He resets it. He says calmly, "I'm simply explaining what I think clearly." Or, "Let's make sure we're talking about the same thing." That's not weakness, that's command. You're not arguing. You're redefining the rules of dialogue. Epictetus taught, when someone tries to provoke you, remember, it is your judgment that you are being harmed that hurts you. You choose your frame. You choose your meaning. And whoever controls meaning, controls the battle. Control the frame, not the fight. Because the mind that defines reality never has to raise its voice. Let's translate these principles into tactics. Socratic strategies for real life. 1. Strategic silence. Pause after each emotional outburst. Let the silence work. It forces the other person to fill it, often with self-contradiction. 2. Reframing. Turn emotional claims into factual questions. "You never listen to me" becomes, "What makes you feel unheard?" 3. The calm repetition. Repeat their key point in your own calm tone. It shows control and exposes exaggeration. 4. Gentle precision. Ask for definitions, not defenses. Clarity ends chaos faster than logic ever could. These are not tricks for manipulation, they are disciplines for the mind. They train you to remain centered while others lose themselves in emotion. Because the Stoic's goal is not victory, it's harmony between truth and self-control. But what about defense, when manipulation turns personal? When someone provokes you, insults you, or twists your words? Remember this, composure is the highest counterattack. Anger is proof that someone has entered your mind. Calm is proof they never will. Marcus Aurelius said you always own the option of having no opinion. That's your shield. You don't owe reaction. You don't owe explanation. When someone plays dirty, you stay clean, not for them, but for your peace, because your dignity is not up for negotiation. Sometimes silence wins louder than any argument, and sometimes walking away is the most articulate response. The Stoic doesn't fight noise, he leaves it echoing behind him. Now let's bring this to the modern world. In work, use these tricks to navigate office politics with clarity. When someone takes credit for your work, don't argue. Ask them calmly to define their contribution. Let truth speak in structure, not emotion. In relationships, use these principles to stop cycles of blame. When someone says, "You don't care," ask, "What does care mean to you?" Half of all conflict dies at the moment of definition. On social media, use restraint as rebellion. When everyone is shouting opinions, your silence becomes signal, not absence. The world doesn't need more voices, it needs more thought. The calm mind wins, not because it dominates, but because it endures. And now we arrive at the deeper truth, the philosophy beneath the tactics. The Socratic way was never about arguments, it was about awakening thought. Socrates didn't care about winning, he cared about freeing the mind from illusion. When you argue to dominate, you become a slave to outcome. When you question to understand, you become a master of reality. Anger, pride, and emotion, these are signs of the weak mind pretending to be strong. Reason, stillness, patience, these are signs of true power disguised as humility. Seneca wrote, "To be angry at the truth is to show that you do not possess it." And that's the difference. The fool argues to protect his opinion, the wise man questions to reach the truth. Winning any argument calmly isn't about intelligence, it's about integrity. You win the moment you no longer need to prove yourself. So here's your challenge. This week, don't argue, apply. When conflict rises, ask questions. When emotion burns, breathe and reframe. When provoked, stand silent until reason returns. Test these 5 Socratic tricks in real life, not to dominate, but to discover. Because wisdom is not in words, it's in restraint. And when you master calm clarity, no one can deceive you, not even yourself. If this spoke to your mind and strengthened your spirit, comment 3 words, "I choose clarity." And if Stoic wisdom gives you strength, subscribe to Anonymous Achiever and walk this path of reason with us. Together, we'll learn how to win, not through force, but through stillness.